If you wanna travel within Africa, there's a high chance that you will use Ethiopia Airline. In case you wanna fly from Africa to the world and vice versa, most likely you will use Ethiopia Airline. What most don't know is that Ethiopian Airline is the biggest airline in Africa. It has been dominating the African aviation industry for years and out-competing aviation heavyweights such as South Africa Airways, Egypt Air, and even Emirates Airlines. But Ethiopia Airlines was not always this aviation icon. In the infancy of Africa aviation, if you wanna travel within Africa, you had to take a flight to South Africa and then to London. And once you reach London, you take a flight to your Africa destination. Those were the common route that the early passengers used to take. In general, travel within Africa was not a glamorous experience and let alone efficient. To make the matter worse, there were multiple proxy wars happening in the Africa ground, mostly USSR vs United States. As a result, the only safe and fast way of traveling within Africa was by air, cause no one was stupid enough to give anti-aircraft equipment to local village warlords. Unfortunately, this option was out of reach for most Africans. The price of a flight ticket was higher than the average annual income. Only few people could afford the luxury of traveling within Africa. Most of those early passengers were business people, government officials, and scholarship students. In general, travel within Africa was not accessible to most people. Everything would eventually change. Where the international community saw danger and instability, the Ethiopians saw opportunity, and actually, there was a real economic potential that just needed to be explored. The former Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie recognized the economic potential of the flight industry. A national airline would bring profit and also prestige. Back then, the world, in particular the Western media, portrayed Ethiopia as a society with extreme poverty and famine, which was not a false description to be honest, but there was more to Ethiopia than just poverty and famine. For the Emperor Haile Selassie, this project will be like killing two birds with one stone. One, it will help change the image of the country, and two, it will start the process of modernization of the Ethiopian economy. But an idea is just an illusion if there's no proper plan followed by execution. In order to bring this idea to reality, the emperor contacted the United States of America, the United Kingdom, and France. The official negotiations started in 1945. The parties involved were the Transcontinental Air Transport and Western Air Express. Both organizations later merged into TWA. On 8th of September of 1945, all the parties reached an agreement, and then Ethiopian government provided the funds. By the end of the year, the Ethiopian Airline was born and ready to cross the skies. The airline was a government-owned enterprise, but managed by the private enterprise, the TWA. Initially, the crew was a combination of expats and locals, and only had 5 planes from the model Douglas C-47. It was not the best start, but they had a sense of direction. Shortly after, the Ethiopian Airline managed to negotiate for landing rights in Aden, Egypt, Somaliland, Saudi Arabia, and Sudan, mostly neighbor countries and the Middle East area. Those were short roads to be honest, but it was just the start. They will go to do even bigger stuff. Ethiopia Airline wanted to go international, just like most of the aviation companies. In order to do that, they need funds, a lot of funds. Unfortunately, they had no capital at that time. But it did not stop then, and eventually they turned around. In 1950, Ethiopia Airline managed to secure 1 million from the Export-Import Bank of the United States. This amount is equivalent to $10,600,000 in today's money. This loan enabled them to add 3 Convair CV-240. Those planes enabled them to fly long road and finally go international. Starting in January 1951, Ethiopia Airline increased its flight activity and added Jeddah, Dhahran, Karachi, and the road to Sharjah, India. And later on, they added more roads such as Aden via Khartoum and Wadi Alpha. However, in the short term, the expansion of the airline did not bring great results. The executive wanted an airline that only focused on profit. Sometimes they focused too much on profit. They were squeezing every penny out of each customer. As a result, the service quality was declining and the revenue as well. To solve the problem, they changed the leadership. In 1980, the company decided to appoint a new CEO, Captain Mohammed Hamed. Once he took office, he slashed 10% of the workforce and stick to the transition to favor Western aircraft over Soviet ones. The airline proceeded to purchase American planes such as the Boeing 727 in 1979 and the Boeing 767 in 1984. This decision caused a ton of controversy because Ethiopia had a communist government. But it was not the only controversy back then. Prior to 80s, in 1974, the Emperor of Ethiopia, Haile Selassie, was overthrown by Derg, a communist group. In the 80s, Ethiopia's economy was not doing well. Just like every single economy controlled by communist government, aka Karl Marx fanboys. Those communists will only be overthrown a decade later, in 1991 more specifically. But it's still 10 years until this happened. Under communist government, Ethiopia had an unfavorable exchange rate, which increased the running costs such as jet fuel, staff payment, plane maintenance, airport fees, and any expenses that involve foreign exchange. However, the local economic hardship did not stop Ethiopia Airline. The airline managed to retain a good reputation throughout the crisis. Even the Financial Times cited that Ethiopia Airline was one of the most profitable airlines in Africa throughout the decade. Those communists were not that communist anyway. In 1982, Ethiopia Airline became the first African carrier to order Boeing 760, as well the first airline to order Boeing 767-200ER. They showed the world that the Ethiopia Airline is here to stay. On 84, they broke a new distance record with a twin jet. They flew 7,500 miles non-stop from Washington DC to Addis Ababa. It was a big deal back then. In September 2010, Ethiopia Airlines joined the Star Alliance under the mentorship of Lufthansa and became a member of Star Alliance in December 2011. An alliance membership is a big deal in the aviation industry. In Africa, only Egypt Air and South African Airways were part of Alliance, which made Ethiopia Airline the third African airline to be part of Alliance. Despite Ethiopia being a government-owned enterprise, it did not share the same problems of government-owned enterprise, which was very uncommon, especially in Africa. Most Africa state-owned enterprises were poorly run. Nepotism was the norm, and political decisions above business decisions were very common. In Ethiopia, the government did not follow the practice of its neighbors. It remained professional and maintained a minimal to no interference in the day-to-day business of the airline. They stayed like that even in times of crisis. It was so professional that in 1988, the Christian Science Monitor called it a capitalist success in a Marxist Ethiopia. As time goes, African middle class start to increase and their consuming habits start to change as well. And also, Africa start to become a more stable place to live and travel. The desire for traveling the world and within Africa was also growing exponentially. Africa was not an isolated case. More people around the world want to travel. Those market changes had a positive effect on Ethiopia Airline. You can see that through the numbers of passengers, which moved from 2.5 million passengers in 2008 to almost 13 million passengers in 2019. And the net profit increased as well, which increased from 64 million in 2018 to 313 million in 2019. Those dollar figures are based on the currency exchange of their respective years, so there might be a slight variation. In 74 years of operation, Ethiopian Airline maintained a great safety record even with accident and incidents. Right now, as I'm recording this content, Ethiopia Airline is the biggest airline company in Africa and one of the best in the world. Thanks for watching or listening, and give your comment, opinion on the matter. Anyway, bonus. Sorry for my pronunciation, and I do not speak a lot about the matter. It is a 10-minute video. If we put all the information, it will be a 2 hours documentary. And also, I do not provide a detailed explanation about the aviation crash that the company had, because aviation crashes are mostly caused by external factors. Those external factors are out of the control of the management decision. In this video, we had to focus on how the Ethiopia Airline became successful and why Ethiopia Airline is successful. Unfortunately, we could not talk about everything. We just don't have the time. In case you have a great book about Ethiopia and Ethiopia as a whole, and also about the East Africa, please mention or just text me or just contact me about the matter. I would like to know more about that region of Africa, because there's not much information about Africa as a whole. This includes Ethiopia and the East Africa region. Most of the information out there are not really factual or are very biased against the Africa continent. So I would like to know more about the Ethiopia and East Africa. See ya. And thanks.